On my 27th birthday, my grandmother gave me a $35 million hotel. 2 hours later, my mother tried to take it away. She had no idea that Grandma had been waiting for this moment for 10 years. The Thornton Grand Hotel had been standing for 48 years. My grandmother built it from nothing after my grandfather died, leaving her with a baby daughter and $12,000 in savings. She turned that $12,000 into an empire. I grew up in the shadow of this building. When other kids went to summer camp, I went to Grandma's hotel. I learned to fold napkins into swans at 7. I knew the difference between thread counts by 10. By 16, I was working the front desk on weekends, not because anyone made me, but because I wanted to understand. My mother called it embarrassing. Thorntons don't work the desk, she'd say. Thorntons own the desk. But Grandma understood. She always did. And tonight she was giving it to me. I stood in the doorway of her private penthouse suite, the one that took up the entire top floor of the hotel. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed the city sparkling below. Crystal chandeliers, antique furniture that cost more than most people's houses. Grandma Barbara sat at the small dining table she preferred for our private dinners. Just 2 place settings, just the 2 of us. That should have been my first clue. "Come in, sweetheart." She smiled, and even at 78, there was something sharp in that smile. Something that reminded me why competitors used to call her the Iron Lady of Hospitality. "Close the door behind you." I did. The click of the lock echoed in the quiet room. This was unusual. Grandma never locked the door during our dinners. We'd been having them once a month for as long as I could remember. Just the 2 of us talking about the hotel, about life, about everything my mother and brother never cared to discuss. But tonight felt different, electric. "Happy birthday, Emma." She gestured to the chair across from her. "Sit, I have something for you." Before I could even settle into my seat, she reached beside her and produced a thick manila envelope. Old, yellowed at the edges. The Thornton family seal pressed into the wax that held it closed. "What's this?" My mother gave me something similar on my 27th birthday. Grandma placed it in my hands. Her fingers lingered on mine for a moment. "Open it later, when you need it most." "When I need it most, Grandma, that's very cryptic." She laughed. That low, knowing laugh that always made me feel like she saw things the rest of us missed. "You'll know when the time comes." She leaned back in her chair. "Now, put that in your purse and pay attention. I have a birthday present for you." I slipped the envelope into my bag, curiosity burning. But I knew better than to push. Grandma revealed things on her own timeline, always had. "The hotel," she said. I waited for her to continue. She didn't. "What about the hotel?" "It's yours." The words didn't compute. I stared at her, waiting for the punchline. "I'm sorry, what?" "The Thornton Grand Hotel, $35 million in current valuation. It's yours. Happy birthday." My mouth opened, closed, opened again. "Grandma, you can't just... I can do whatever I want with my hotel." She picked up her wine glass, completely casual, like she'd just offered me a sweater instead of a fortune. "I built it. I decide who gets it. And I'm deciding it's you." "But what about Mom? What about Brandon?" Something flickered across her face, something cold. "What about them? They're family. They'll expect..." "Emma," her voice cut through my stammering like a knife. "Do you know why I'm giving this to you and not your mother?" I shook my head. "Because in 54 years, your mother has never once asked me how I built this hotel. She's never asked about the 18-hour days, the loans I couldn't sleep over, the years I spent learning every single job from housekeeper to accountant. She's only ever asked when she would inherit it." Grandma set down her wine glass. "But you, Emma, you asked me to teach you. You started working here at 16, not because you had to, but because you wanted to understand. You have a business degree you earned yourself while your brother was flunking out of his 3rd college. You know the name of every head housekeeper in this building." She reached across the table and took my hand. "You're the only one who truly understands what this hotel means. That's why it's yours." I felt tears pricking at my eyes. 27 years of being overlooked. Of being the quiet one. The invisible one. The daughter who wasn't as pretty as Brandon was handsome, wasn't as charming, wasn't as loud. And here was the only person who ever saw me handing me everything. "Grandma, I don't know what to say." "Say you'll take cares of it." She squeezed my hand. "Say you'll protect what I built." "I will, I promise." She smiled, warm this time, proud. For a moment, I let myself believe this was real. That I was finally being seen. That all those years of working harder, staying quieter, doing more with less recognition, it had all been worth it. I thought about my mother's face when she found out. My brother's shock. The way they'd always looked past me at family dinners, talked over me at holidays, forgotten my birthday, more times than they remembered it. Now they would have to see me. Now they would have no choice. "Thank you, Grandma." My voice cracked. "Thank you for believing in me." "I've always believed in you, sweetheart. I was just waiting for the right time to prove it." "Good. Now let's eat before." The door burst open. My mother stood in the doorway, her face flushed, her designer heels clicking against the marble as she stormed in. Behind her, my brother Brandon followed with that easy swagger he'd perfected over 30 years of getting everything handed to him. "Mother," Jennifer's voice was ice-wrapped in silk. "We need to talk." Grandma didn't even turn around. "I don't recall inviting you, Jenny. Richard called me." Jennifer walked around the table to face her mother. "He said you filed papers today, transferring ownership of the hotel." "Ah, Richard, the hotel's general manager, one of my mother's few remaining allies on the board." "News travels fast," Grandma said mildly. "To her," Jennifer pointed at me without looking at me, like I was furniture. "You're giving my inheritance to her." There it was, her. Not Emma, not your granddaughter, just her. 27 years of being her. I remembered my 8th birthday. Mom forgot. She was at a spa retreat with her friends. Brandon got a car for his 16th birthday, a BMW that he totaled within 3 months. I got a card with $20 in it signed by her assistant. Grandma threw me a party at the hotel. Just the two of us and the kitchen staff who made me a chocolate cake with edible gold flakes. She gave me a tiny pearl necklace that had belonged to her mother. I still wore it every day. My mother had never noticed. "Your inheritance," Grandma raised an eyebrow. I wasn't aware I had died. "You know what I mean, Mother." Brandon stepped forward, running a hand through his perfect hair. "Grandma, let's all calm down here. I'm sure we can work something out that makes everyone happy." He gave me that smile, the one that used to make me feel small, the one that said I'm the important one here, not you. "Emma," he said my name like it tasted bad. "You understand, right? This is a family legacy. It should be managed by the family, together." "She is family," Grandma said. "You know what I mean?" Brandon's smile didn't waver. "I've been preparing for this my whole life. I have connections, business experience. I know the investors, the gig." "What business experience?" I heard myself say. The room went quiet. Brandon's smile froze. "Excuse me." "What business experience?" I repeated. Something was building in my chest, something that had been building for 27 years. "You dropped out of 3 colleges. You've never held a job for more than 6 months. The only investing you've done is spending Mom's allowance on cars you crashed and startups that went bankrupt." I was shaking now, but I couldn't stop. "Do you even know how many rooms this hotel has? Do you know what our occupancy rate was last quarter? Do you know the name of a single employee who's worked here for more than a year?" Brandon's jaw tightened. "That's not 412 rooms, 87% occupancy, and Martha Chen has been head of housekeeping for 23 years. She has a grandson named Tyler who just started kindergarten." I stepped forward. "I know this hotel, Brandon. I know it because I've lived it. What have you done besides spend money you didn't earn?" "Emma," my mother's voice was sharp. "That's enough." "No." The word came out stronger than I expected. "No, it's not enough. I've been working at this hotel since I was 16. I have a degree in hospitality management. I know every department, every system, every challenge this building faces. And you two walk in here and act like I'm just, what, the placeholder, the warm body until the real heirs show up." Jennifer's expression shifted, the mask slipping just a little to show the steel underneath. "Sweetheart," her voice was softer now, dangerous. "You're clearly overwhelmed. This is a lot of responsibility for someone your age. All we're suggesting is a family management committee. You can be part of it, learn from us. In a few years, when you're ready." "I'm ready now. Grandma chose me for a reason." Jennifer's eyes flickered to her mother. "Mother, be reasonable. She doesn't understand how business works. The board won't accept." "The board," Grandma cut in, "will accept whatever I tell them to accept. I still own 60% of this company. For now." The words were out of Jennifer's mouth before she could stop them. Silence. I saw it then, the calculation in my mother's eyes. This wasn't a spontaneous outburst. This was a plan. She'd been laying groundwork for months, maybe years, waiting for Grandma to make a move, waiting to counter it. She just hadn't expected Grandma to move so fast, or so completely. Grandma smiled, slowly, like a cat watching a mouse walk into a trap. "What was that, Jenny?" My mother straightened her spine. The pretense was gone now. "I've spoken to Richard, and Catherine, and Marcus on the board. They have concerns about this transfer, about your judgment, about whether Emma is truly equipped to—" "You went behind my back." It wasn't a question. "I'm protecting this family's legacy." "No," I stood up, my chair scraped against the floor. "You're trying to steal it." Jennifer turned to me with such contempt in her eyes that I almost stepped back. Almost. "You ungrateful little—" "Jenny," Grandma's voice was quiet, deadly. "Be very careful what you say next." My mother took a breath, composed herself. When she spoke again, her voice was calm, reasonable. the voice she used when she was about to destroy someone. Fine. If that's how you want to play this, Emma. She stepped closer to me. Let me make something very clear. You live in my house. You drive a car I pay for. You have a job at this hotel because I allowed it. If you want to play CEO, go ahead. But don't expect to come home tonight. My heart dropped. She was right. I did live with her. After graduating, after everything, I'd moved back into the family home because it was easier. Because it was free. Because I thought family meant something. I'd saved money, tried to save money, but entry-level hotel management didn't pay much, and student loans ate up most of it. I could maybe afford a studio apartment, maybe. Starting tonight, I had nowhere to go. Stupid. So stupid. I'd let myself be dependent on the people who despised me. Pack your bags, Jennifer smiled. The smile of a woman who knew she had won. Find somewhere else to sleep. Maybe one of the maids will let you crash with them. You seem to know them so well. Brandon snorted behind her. I felt my hand go to my purse. The envelope inside. Grandma's voice echoed, "Open it when you need it most." Was this the moment? I looked at Grandma. She was laughing. Not loudly, just a soft chuckle like someone had told a joke only she understood. She rose from her chair slowly, deliberately, and walked to stand beside me. "Jenny, darling," her voice was velvet wrapped around a blade. "Did you forget something?" Jennifer's smile faltered. "What are you talking about?" "The house." Grandma placed her hand on my shoulder. "The one you've been so generously letting Emma live in. The one you threatened to kick her out of." She paused. Let the silence stretch. "That's Emma's too." The color drained from my mother's face. "What? Your father bought that house for Emma when she was born. It's been in a trust waiting for her 27th birthday, which is today." Grandma's smile widened. "You've been living there rent-free for 15 years, Jenny, as a courtesy that Emma can now revoke whenever she chooses." I stared at Grandma. She hadn't told me. All these years she hadn't said a word. But that's not all. Grandma reached into her jacket pocket and produced a slim folder. "Along with the hotel, I've transferred my 60% controlling shares in Thornton Holdings to Emma. As of 6 o'clock this evening, she owns the majority stake in everything: the hotel, the subsidiary properties, the investment accounts." She looked at Jennifer, then at Brandon. "Which means technically Emma is now your landlord." Brandon made a choking sound. "And your boss." Jennifer was shaking, actually shaking. I'd never seen her lose composure like this. "You can't, the board won't, I'll contest this. I'll prove you're not mentally competent to—" "Oh, I was hoping you'd say that." Grandma opened the folder. "That's why I had my lawyers document everything. Psychological evaluations, video depositions, and this." She pulled out a single sheet of paper. "An audit of the hotel's finances over the past 15 years, specifically tracking certain discrepancies." Jennifer went white. $3 million, Jenny." Grandma's voice was soft now, almost gentle. "Over 15 years. Did you think I wouldn't notice?" "That's a lie. I never. Hotel account to personal account, I have every wire transfer." Grandma tucked the paper back into the folder. "The board knows. The lawyers know. The police will know if you push this." My mother looked like she was going to be sick. Brandon had backed up against the wall, wanting no part of whatever was coming next. Grandma turned to me. Her eyes were warm again, proud. "Happy birthday, sweetheart." She kissed my forehead. "I told you I'd give you everything you needed." I looked down at my purse, the envelope inside. She'd prepared for this, for years, maybe decades. "Grandma!" My voice cracked. "How long have you known about your mother?" She glanced at Jennifer, who was still standing frozen in the middle of the room. "I've known who she is since she was 12 years old and blamed the housekeeper for a vase she broke herself. I just needed to wait for the right moment." She smiled. "And for the right heir." I looked at my mother, at my brother, at the two people who had spent my entire life making me feel invisible. They were looking at me now, really looking at me. For the first time ever, I saw fear in their eyes. Grandma squeezed my shoulder. "Now I believe we have a family dinner to finish." She gestured toward the door. "Unless you two would like to join us, I'm sure Emma has some thoughts about how the company will be run going forward." Jennifer's mouth opened, closed, opened again. No words came out. She turned and walked out of the penthouse. Brandon scrambled after her like a kicked dog. At the doorway, my mother paused, looked back at me. For just a moment, I saw something in her eyes. Not anger, not fear. Hatred. Pure, unfiltered hatred. Then she was gone. The door closed behind them. Grandma and I stood in silence for a long moment. Then she laughed. A real laugh this time. The laugh of a woman who had just won a game she'd been playing for longer than I'd been alive. "Well," she returned to her seat and picked up her wine glass. That was satisfying. I sank into my chair. My legs wouldn't hold me anymore. "Grandma, I can't." "Yes, you can." She reached across the table and took my hand again. I've watched you for 27 years, Emma. You're stronger than you know, smarter than you believe, and far more ruthless than anyone gives you credit for. Ruthless. You stood up to your mother just now. That woman has destroyed people for less, and you looked her in the eye and called her a thief. Grandma's eyes gleamed. That's my blood. That's Thornton blood. I thought about my mother's face when she realized she'd lost. The fear in her eyes, the panic. I'd never seen her afraid before. Part of me felt guilty. She was still my mother. Still the woman who gave birth to me, who raised me, who forgot my birthdays, who called me mousy, who told me I'd never amount to anything without her help, who stole $3 million from her own mother. The guilt faded. I looked at the folder still sitting on the table. $3 million, 15 years. What happens now? I asked. Now, Grandma sipped her wine. Now we eat dinner. Tomorrow you meet with the lawyers. And next week? She smiled. Next week you start running your hotel. My hotel. $35 million, and a family that would do anything to take it from me. I thought about the envelope still in my purse. The one Grandma told me to open when I needed it most. Tonight hadn't been the time. Tonight she'd handled everything herself. But something told me my mother wasn't finished. Jennifer Thornton didn't lose gracefully. She didn't lose at all. Whatever was in that envelope, I might need it sooner than I thought. I picked up my own wine glass, took a long drink. Whatever came next, I was ready. At least, I thought I was. The door had barely closed behind my mother when I collapsed into my chair. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I had just watched my grandmother systematically dismantle my mother's entire power play in less than 5 minutes. And I owned a $35 million hotel, and a house, and 60% of a company. The weight of it settled on my shoulders like a physical thing. 27 years of being invisible, and now suddenly I was the most visible person in the room. The most powerful person in my family. It was terrifying and exhilarating and absolutely surreal. Breathe, sweetheart. Grandma's voice was calm, almost amused. She refilled my wine glass and slid it across the table. You look like you've seen a ghost. I feel like I am a ghost. I took a long drink. Grandma, how long have you been planning this? She considered the question. The hotel transfer, about 3 years. The house revelation that was always meant for your 27th birthday per your grandfather's wishes. The audit of your mother's theft. She smiled. I started that the day she stole her first dollar. I just needed to let her hang herself with enough rope. 15 years of rope. $3 million of rope. Grandma set down her glass. Your mother has been skimming from the company since before you were born, Emma. Small amounts at first, expense accounts, consulting fees to companies she owned. She thought she was clever. But you knew. I always knew. Her eyes hardened. I built this empire from nothing. Do you think I don't know where every penny goes I let her steal because I was gathering evidence, waiting for the right moment, and waiting for the right heir to give it all to? I thought about my mother's face when the audit was mentioned, the terror in her eyes. What happens now? Now, Tag. Grandma walked to the window, looked out at the city lights. Now Jenny will do what Jenny always does. She'll fight, she'll scheme, she'll try to take back what she believes is rightfully hers. The board members she mentioned, Richard and the others, bought and paid for. Or they think they are. Grandma turned back to me. But I've been playing this game longer than any of them have been alive. They'll discover that very soon. I touched my purse, the envelope inside. Grandma, what's in here, really? She smiled, that knowing smile. Insurance for when Jenny makes her move. She kissed my forehead. Get some sleep tonight, sweetheart. Tomorrow the real work begins. I didn't sleep. I lay awake in the penthouse guest room, staring at the ceiling, running through everything that had happened. By morning, I had circles under my eyes and a knot in my stomach. My phone buzzed at 7. Text from the hotel's front desk manager. Your mother is in the lobby with lawyers. She's demanding to see you. So it begins. I dressed carefully, professional, a dark blue dress Grandma had given me last Christmas, pearl necklace from my 8th birthday. When I looked in the mirror, I didn't see the mousy girl my mother had always dismissed. I saw someone who owned this building. I saw a Thornton. The lobby was chaos when I stepped off the elevator. My mother stood near the reception desk, flanked by 2 men in expensive suits. One I recognized as Harold Fletcher, the family's longtime attorney. The other was a stranger younger with a shark's smile. Brandon lurked behind them, looking uncomfortable. He never did like confrontation, my brother. He preferred to let others do the dirty work while he reaped the rewards. Emma, my mother's voice was crisp, controlled. Last night's panic had been replaced by cold calculation. We need to talk, privately. We can talk here. This is a family matter, not a public spectacle. I looked around the lobby. Staff members were watching, trying not to be obvious about it. Guests were pretending not to notice the tension. Fine, I gestured toward the elevator. My office. My office. I'd said it without thinking. But it was true now, wasn't it? The ride up was silent. 12 floors of tension so thick I could barely breathe. When we stepped into the executive suite, my mother didn't wait for pleasantries. This is Harold Fletcher, as you know. And this is Martin Reeves, a specialist in elder law and competency cases. She sat down without being invited. We're here to discuss your grandmother's unfortunate decision. Unfortunate? Emma, please. Jennifer's voice was almost kind, almost maternal. We all love Mother, but we have to face facts. She's 78 years old. She's been under tremendous stress since Father died. And now she's making rash decisions that could destroy everything our family has built. Everything she built, I corrected. Jennifer ignored me. We've consulted with physicians, with mental health experts. We believe there are grounds to challenge the transfer on the basis of diminished capacity. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. You're saying Grandma is mentally incompetent. I'm saying she may not be in a position to make sound financial decisions. Jennifer leaned forward. Think about it, Emma. She's giving away $35 million. She's accusing her own daughter of theft based on some audit she won't let anyone verify. She's acting erratically, impulsively, without consulting family or advisors. She consulted me. You're not an advisor. You're barely out of college. Jennifer's mask slipped for just a moment. You're a glorified receptionist who got lucky. There it was, the contempt she'd always hidden beneath fake smiles and backhanded compliments. What do you want? I asked. Martin Reeves spoke for the first time. We're prepared to file for a temporary restraining order halting the transfer of assets. We'll request a full competency evaluation of Barbara Thornton. Given the circumstances, any court would grant it. This could take years, Harold added. Years of litigation, years of uncertainty, years of this company being paralyzed while the courts decide who really owns it. Jennifer smiled. Or we could settle this quietly, within the family. Meaning, sign over controlling interest in Thornton Holdings to a family trust. Brandon and I will serve as co-trustees. You'll retain a minority stake, of course, 10%, and a seat on the board. It's more than fair. 10%, a seat on the board, after everything. And the house stays in the family trust as well. Jennifer's smile widened. You can continue living there, of course, as long as you cooperate. I looked at my brother. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Brandon, nothing to say. He shrugged. It's not personal, it's business. You're not qualified for this. Everyone knows it. Everyone except Grandma. The only person who ever believed in me. I thought about the envelope in my purse. Open when you need it most. I need time to think, I said. 24 hours, Jennifer stood. After that, we file. The moment they left, I locked my office door. My hands were shaking again. Not from fear this time, from rage. They were going to do it. They were actually going to try to have my grandmother declared mentally incompetent, to steal everything she'd spent 50 years building, to reduce me to nothing again. I sank into my chair, stared at the ceiling. What was I supposed to do? I was 27 years old. I had a business degree and 5 years of entry-level hotel experience. They had lawyers and board members and decades of family connections. Maybe they were right. Maybe I wasn't qualified. Maybe Grandma had made a mistake. No, she didn't make mistakes. Not about this. I reached into my purse, pulled out the manila envelope. It was heavier than I remembered. Old, yellowed. The Thornton family seal pressed into dark red wax. My mother gave me something similar on my 27th birthday. Open it when you need it most. This was the moment, if there ever was one. I broke the seal. Inside were 3 things. First, a set of stock certificates. Original documents dated 1976, the year my grandfather died. They showed a transfer of 60% of Thornton Holdings to a trust. The beneficiary was listed as first grandchild of Barbara Thornton upon reaching 27 years of age. Me. He'd left them to me before my mother even got pregnant. Second, a sealed DVD in a plastic case, labeled in Grandma's handwriting, for the board, when the time comes. Third, a letter, handwritten, faded ink on yellowed paper. I unfolded it carefully. My darling granddaughter, if you're reading this, then Barbara has judged the time to be right. I wish I could be there to see you, to know you. But cancer has other plans, and I've learned not to argue with fate. Your grandmother tells me you're a girl of quiet strength, that you watch, that you listen, that you understand things others miss. She says you're like her, and there is no higher compliment. I built Thornton Holdings from nothing. Your grandmother made it an empire, and you, my dear, will protect it. Your mother believes she deserves this company because she was born into it. She is wrong. Legacy is not a birthright. It is a responsibility, one that must be earned. I have watched Jennifer my whole life. I love her as any father loves his child. But I am not blind to what she is. She takes, she schemes, She believes the world owes her something. You are different. Barbara has told me stories of you since you were born. How you asked questions, how you wanted to learn, how you treated the housekeepers and the doormen with the same respect you showed executives. That is why this company is yours. These documents cannot be contested. They were drawn up by the finest lawyers in the country, witnessed, notarized, and filed with the courts. Any challenge will fail. But more importantly, the video Barbara has prepared will show any doubters exactly who she is and exactly why she made this choice. Be strong, my darling. Be fierce. Be a Thornton. With all my love, your grandfather, William Thornton. Tears were streaming down my face by the time I finished. A grandfather I'd never met had believed in me before I was even born. A grandmother who'd watched me my whole life, waiting for the right moment. They'd both known. They'd both planned. For 50 years, they'd been building a fortress around me brick by brick, while I had no idea it even existed. My mother thought she was the spider in this web. She had no idea she was the fly. And my mother had no idea. The office door opened. I hadn't heard it unlock. Grandma walked in calm as ever. "You've read it," she said, not a question. He knew. Grandfather knew about Mom. William knew everything. She sat across from me. He was dying when he wrote that. But his mind was sharp to the end. He made me promise to wait until you were ready, until Jenny had shown her true colors publicly, until there was no question who deserved this legacy. The DD. My testimony, recorded 3 months ago when I was evaluated by 4 independent psychiatrists who certified me as mentally sound. The video includes their reports, their credentials, and my detailed explanation of why I chose you over your mother. She smiled. It also includes security footage of your mother accessing the accounting systems, transferring funds, covering her tracks, every crime documented. Why didn't you show them this yesterday? Because I wanted to see what Jenny would do. Grandma's eyes glittered. I wanted her to hang herself one more time, to threaten you, to try to have me declared incompetent, to put her desperation on full display. The board members, she turned, will watch that video tomorrow and realize they backed the wrong horse. Grandma stood. Get some rest tonight, Emma. Tomorrow we end this. The emergency board meeting was Jennifer's idea. She'd called it for 10 in the morning, claiming urgent concerns about company leadership. 8 board members filed into the conference room. My mother and Brandon sat at the head of the table, lawyers flanking them. I sat at the other end, alone. Grandma had insisted. You need to do this yourself, she'd said. Show them who you are. Richard Morrison, the general manager who tipped off my mother, called the meeting to order. We're here to discuss concerns about the recent transfer of controlling shares in Thornton Holdings, he began. Jennifer Thornton has raised questions about the validity of the transfer and the mental competency of. I'd like to speak, I said. Heads turned. Richard frowned. This is a board matter. You're not a board member, Miss Thornton. Actually, I own 60% of this company. That gives me the right to address the board whenever I choose. I stood. May I? Jennifer's lawyer started to object, but Jennifer silenced him with a look. She was curious, I could tell, wondering what I could possibly say. Yesterday, my mother threatened to have my grandmother declared mentally incompetent. She claims the transfer of shares was made under duress or confusion or manipulation. I picked up the manila envelope. I'd like to show you something. I walked around the table, placing copies of the stock certificates in front of each board member. These are the original transfer documents for 60% of Thornton Holdings. They were signed in 1976 by William Thornton, my grandfather. They designate me as the beneficiary upon my 27th birthday. Silence. My grandfather set up this trust 50 years ago, before my mother was even married, before I was born. He left specific instructions that these shares would pass to his first grandchild when she came of age. I looked at my mother. He chose me, Mom, before he even knew who I would be. Jennifer's face had gone pale. Those could be forged, Brandon said desperately. They're filed with the county recorder's office. Feel free to verify. I turned to the rest of the board. But that's not all. I walked to the AV console and inserted the DVD. This is a video deposition recorded 3 months ago. It includes psychiatric evaluations from 4 independent specialists confirming my grandmother's mental competency. It includes her detailed explanation of this transfer. And it includes. I pressed play. The screen flickered to life. Grandma appeared looking sharp and alert, sitting in this very conference room. My name is Barbara Thornton. I am 78 years old, of sound mind, and I am making this recording to document my decisions regarding the future of Thornton Holdings. The video played. 5 minutes. 10. 15. She explained everything. The trust from 1976. The reasons for choosing me. The evidence against Jennifer. Her voice was clear, sharp, and utterly lucid. Not a hint of confusion. Not a trace of incompetence. This was the Barbara Thornton who had built an empire. The Iron Lady who had crushed competitors and survived recessions and turned $12,000 into $35 million. And she was choosing me. And then the security footage began. Jennifer in the accounting office at 2 in the morning, accessing files, transferring funds, deleting records, date stamps, timestamps, transaction logs, $3 million over 15 years. The board members watched in frozen silence. When the video ended, I looked at my mother. She wasn't pale anymore. She was gray, like all the blood had drained from her body. The footage has been verified by independent forensic analysts, I said. Copies have been sent to our legal team and are available to law enforcement if needed. Richard Morrison cleared his throat. Jennifer, do you have anything to say? For a long moment, my mother didn't move, didn't speak. Then she laughed, a strange broken sound. 50 years, she whispered. She's been planning this for 50 years, before I was even born. Not planning against you, I said quietly. Planning for the right future. You're the one who chose to steal, to lie, to threaten. That's not Grandma's fault. It's yours. Jennifer looked at me then, really looked at me, and the mask didn't just slip, it shattered. You think you've won? Her voice was low, venomous. You think you can run this company? You're nothing. You've always been nothing. A mousy little afterthought that I tolerated because it wasn't worth the effort to. That's enough. Richard's voice was sharp. I think we've heard enough. He looked around the table at the other board members, all in favor of confirming Emma Thornton as majority shareholder and rightful heir to the Thornton estate. 8 hands went up, all opposed. Silence. Richard nodded. Motion carries unanimously. This meeting is adjourned. 1 week later, I stood at the window of my office, in my hotel, looking out at my city. It still didn't feel real, maybe it never would. The staff had adjusted faster than I expected. Martha Chen from housekeeping had stopped by on my first official day as owner. She'd brought me flowers from the garden and a card signed by her entire department. We always knew you were special, she'd said. Your grandmother told us years ago that someday you'd be in charge. Years ago, even the housekeepers had known before I did. Behind me, Grandma settled into the chair across from my desk. She looked tired but satisfied. The look of a general who had finally won a long war. Jennifer has moved out of the house, she said. She's renting an apartment downtown. Brandon is looking for a job for the first time in his life. And the embezzlement charges? The prosecutor is reviewing the evidence. Given the amount and duration, she's looking at serious time. But that's out of our hands now. Grandma paused. You could intervene, speak on her behalf. She is your mother. I thought about that. About the woman who forgot my birthdays. Who called me mousy. Who tried to have my grandmother declared insane. Who looked at me with hatred when her mask finally fell. No, I said. I couldn't. Good. Grandma smiled. I raised you right after all. My phone buzzed. A text message. From Jennifer. Emma, can we talk? I know I made mistakes. You're still my daughter. Please. I stared at the message for a long moment. Then I opened my desk drawer, put the phone inside, closed it. Some apologies come 27 years too late. Some wounds don't heal with words. And some mothers are only mothers by biology. I turned back to the window. The city sparkled below me. 412 rooms full of guests. Hundreds of employees who now looked to me for leadership. A legacy that stretched back 50 years and would stretch forward for 50 more. My legacy now, my responsibility, my privilege. Grandma came to stand beside me. How does it feel? She asked. I thought about the girl I used to be. The invisible one, the quiet one, the one who was always underestimated, overlooked, dismissed. The one who sat in corners at family gatherings watching everyone else live their lives while she wondered if she would ever matter. That girl was gone. In her place stood someone new, someone who had inherited not just money and property but a purpose, a mission, a family worth of the name. It feels like home, I said. Grandma squeezed my shoulder. Her hand was warm, strong, steady, the hand that had built an empire, the hand that had chosen me. Welcome to the family business, sweetheart. I looked out at the skyline, at the hotel my grandmother had built from nothing, at the empire my grandfather had trusted me to protect. For 27 years, I had been the ghost in my own family. Not anymore. Never again.